Today is the 11th of September 2010. This is the 53rd time we are speaking on the Majjhima Nikaya Suttas. Tonight we come to Sutta number 129, Bala Pandita Sutta, Fools and Wise Men. This is quite a good sutta about Kamma Vipaka. Thus have I heard. On one occasion, the Blessed One was living at Savatthi in Jeta's Grove, Anathapindika's park. There he addressed the monks thus, "Monks, Venerable Sir," they replied. The Blessed One said, "Monks, there are these three characteristics of a fool, signs of a fool, attributes of a fool." "What three?" "Here a fool is one who thinks bad thoughts, speaks bad words, and does bad deeds. If a fool were not so, how could the wise know him thus? This person is a fool and untrue man. But because a fool is one who thinks bad thoughts, speaks bad words, and does bad deeds, the wise know him thus. This person is a fool and untrue man." Stop here for a moment. So in the Buddha's teachings, a fool is one who creates unwholesome karma through thoughts, words, and action, deeds. And because of that, it is expected that he will be reborn in a woeful plane of rebirth. So it is not like some people think, a fool in the worldly sense. In the world, a fool is one who doesn't know this, doesn't know that, who doesn't make big money, who doesn't go to the university. That is the worldly standard of a fool. But in the Buddha's teachings, a fool is one who does unwholesome karma or action through the body, speech, and mind. A fool feels pain and grief here and now in three ways. If a fool is seated in an assembly, or along a street, or in a square, and people there are discussing certain pertinent and relevant matters, then if the fool is one who kills living beings, takes what is not given, misconducts himself in sensual pleasures, speaks falsehood, and indulges in wine, liquor, and intoxicants, which are the basis of negligence, he thinks, these people are discussing certain pertinent and relevant matters. These things are found in me, and I am seen engaging in those things. This is the first kind of pain and grief that a fool feels here and now. Again, when a robber culprit is caught, a fool sees kings having many kinds of torture inflicted on him, having him flogged with whips, beaten with canes, beaten with clubs, having his hands cut off, his feet cut off, his hands and feet cut off, his ears cut off, his nose cut off, his ears and nose cut off, having him subjected to the porridge pot, to the polished shell shave, to the rahu's mouth, to the fiery wreath, to the flaming hand, to the blades of grass, to the bark dress, to the antelope, to the meat hooks, to the coins, to the lye pickling, to the pivoting pin, to the rolled up lace, and having him splashed with boiling oil, and having him thrown to be devoured by dogs, and having him impaled alive on stakes, and having his head cut off with a sword. Then the fool thinks thus, because of such evil actions as those, when a robber culprit is caught, kings have many kinds of tortures inflicted on him. They have him flogged with whips, etc., and have his head cut off with a sword. Those things are found in me, and I am seen engaging in those things. This is the second kind of pain and grief that a fool feels here and now. Again, when a fool is on his chair or on his bed or resting on the ground, then the evil actions that he did in the past, his bodily, verbal, and mental misconduct, cover him, overspread him, and envelop him, just as the shadow of a great mountain peak in the evening covers, overspreads, and envelopes the earth. So too, when a fool is on his chair or on his bed or resting on the ground, then the evil actions that he did in the past, His bodily, verbal, and mental misconduct cover him, overspread him, and envelop him. Then the fool thinks, I have not done what is good, I have not done what is wholesome, I have not made myself a shelter from anguish, I have done what is evil, I have done what is cruel, I have done what is wicked. When I pass away, I shall go to the destination of those who have not done what is good, etc., who have done what is wicked. He sorrows, grieves, and laments. He weeps, beating his breast, and becomes distraught. This is the third kind of pain and grief that a fool feels here and now. A fool who has given himself over to misconduct of body, speech, and mind, on the dissolution of the body after death, reappears in a state of deprivation, in an unhappy destination, even in hell. Sorry for a moment. So here the Buddha says, a fool who misconducts himself through body, speech, and mind, he has a guilty conscience. So whenever a group of people sit together and discuss anything, he has this guilty feeling that they might be discussing about him and all that, because he misconducts himself, so he feels pain and grief because of his conscience. Secondly, when somebody does some criminal act, like a robber is caught, during those days the kings had a great power, so all kinds of tortures can be inflicted on a criminal. His hands and feet can be cut off, ears and nose, subjected to the porridge pot, probably boiled in the porridge pot. To the meat hooks, just like our they roast the chicken or the duck, and then they hang on the meat hooks. So probably this man also gets hanged up by the neck, and splashed with boiling oil, thrown alive to hungry dogs to devour him. And then maybe thrown down a hole with stakes, sharp stakes, so he's impaled alive on the stakes, or his head cut off with a sword. So when he sees all these tortures inflicted on the criminal, he has guilty thoughts, and he feels pain and grief. Thirdly, even when he's not doing anything, he's resting, these guilty thoughts, his conscience pricks him, and so he is disturbed. So these are the three occasions when a person does unwholesome deeds, he feels his conscience pricked. Were it rightly speaking to be said of anything that is utterly unwished for, utterly undesired, utterly disagreeable, it is of hell that, rightly speaking, this should be said, so much so that it is hard to find a simile for the suffering in hell. When this was said, a monk asked the Blessed One, "But Venerable Sir, can a simile be given?" "It can, monk," the Blessed One said. "Monks, suppose men caught a robber culprit and presented him to the king, saying, 'Sire, here is a robber culprit. Order what punishment you will for him.' Then the king said, 'Go and strike this man in the morning with 100 spears.' And they struck him in the morning with 100 spears. Then at noon the king asked, 'How is that man?' 'Sire, he is still alive.' Then the king said, 'Go and strike that man at noon with 100 spears.' And they struck him at noon with 100 spears. Then in the evening the king asked, 'How is that man?' 'Sire, he is still alive.' Then the king said, 'Go and strike that man in the evening with 100 spears.' And they struck him in the evening with 100 spears. What do you think, monks? Would that man experience pain and grief because of being struck with 300 spears? Venerable Sir, that man would experience pain and grief because of being struck with even one spear, let alone 300. Then taking a small stone the size of his hand, the Blessed One addressed the monks thus, 'What do you think, monks? Which is greater, this small stone that I have taken, the size of my hand, or Himalaya, the king of mountains?' Venerable Sir, the small stone that the Blessed One has taken, the size of his hand, does not count beside Himalaya, the king of mountains. It is not even a fraction. There is no comparison. So too, monks, The pain and grief that the man would experience because of being struck with 300 spears does not count beside the suffering of hell. It is not even a fraction. There is no comparison. Stop here for a moment. So here, because the monk asked for a simile, the Buddha said that imagine a man, a criminal, he is stabbed by 300 spears in a day. How do you think his pain and grief is? His pain, his body pain is very terrible. And then even the mental grief is also very great. But the Buddha said that is nothing at all compared to the suffering in hell. Just like a small stone compared to the Himalaya cannot compare at all. So in the same way, when we think that this man being struck with 300 spears, the suffering is so much, yet the Buddha says it's nothing at all compared to the suffering in hell. So we always have to remember this. As long as we don't take the trouble to get right view and get stream entry, that means the first part of Aryahood, hell is still waiting for us. The round of samsara is still very long. I mean, we have to go to hell many, many times. Now the wardens of hell torture him with the fivefold transfixing. They drive a red-hot iron stake through, here it says one hand. There are some other suttas, this is through one arm. They drive a red-hot iron stake through one arm. They drive a red-hot iron stake through the other arm. They drive a red-hot iron stake through one leg. They drive a red-hot iron stake through the other leg. They drive a red-hot iron stake through his chest. There he feels painful, racking, piercing feelings. Yet he does not die so long as that evil action has not exhausted its result. Next, the wardens of hell throw him down and pare him with axes. There he feels painful, racking, piercing feelings. Yet he does not die so long as that evil action has not exhausted its result. Next, the wardens of hell set him with his feet up and his head down and pare him with axes. There he feels painful, racking, piercing feelings. Yet he does not die so long as that evil action has not exhausted its result. Stop here for a moment. So once he goes down to hell, actually the Buddha did not describe. Firstly, he has to go in front of King Yama. King Yama will question him. I think in the next sutta that is described. So the first kind of suffering he undergoes is the fivefold transfixing. They drive these 5 stakes, iron stakes, red hot, through each of his limbs, the 2 hands, the 2 legs. Then the 5th one, they drive through his chest. So he's pinned to the ground and he cannot move. Maybe for 1,000 years he cannot move. This is the description of Devadatta. Devadatta has done a lot of mischief to the Buddha, so he has gone to hell and he's said to be pinned down in that way. He cannot move. And the other thing interesting here is that yet he does not die so long as that evil action has not exhausted its result. You see, in the human plane or even in the animal plane, when we get excessive pain and we cannot stand it, we just let go and we die. It's a blessing to die. But here, this guy is in great pain. He wants to die, but he cannot die. If you study the Mahayana books, sometimes they say differently. They say in the Mahayana books that he dies. And then a cold wind will come and revive him, and then he wakes up again. And they torture him again. And then he dies, and then a cold wind will wake him up again. But here, it's worse, this description in the original suttas. He wants to die, but he cannot die so long as his evil karma has not been exhausted. Then they throw him down and pare him with axes. That means they cut off his outer layer of skin. Use the axe to shave off his outer skin. And then he feels painful, racking, piercing feelings. And then after that, they put him upside down and pair him with adzes. Adzes is this instrument, this where you, how do you say, you, when we were young, we see them, the carpenter working, planing the wood. So this one is using this adze to shave off his flesh, bit by bit shave off his flesh. It's a terrible feeling. He wants to die, but he cannot die. Next, the wardens of hell harness him to a chariot and drive him back and forth across burning ground, blazing and glowing. There he feels painful, racking, piercing feelings. Yet he does not die so long as that evil action has not exhausted its result. Next, the wardens of hell make him climb up and down a great mound of burning coals, blazing and glowing. There he feels painful, racking, piercing feelings. Yet he does not die so long as that evil action has not exhausted its result. Next, the wardens of hell take him feet up and head down and plunge him into a red-hot metal cauldron, burning, blazing and glowing. There he is cooked in a swirl of froth, and as he is being cooked there in a swirl of froth, he is swept now up, now down, and now across. There he feels painful, racking, piercing feelings. Yet he does not die so long as that evil action has not exhausted its result. Next, the wardens of hell throw him into the great hell. Now, as to that great hell, monks, it has 4 corners and is built with 4 doors, one set in each side, walled up with iron and all around, and shut in with an iron roof. Its floor as well is made of iron, and heated till it glows with fire. The range is a full 100 leagues, which it covers all pervasively. Monks, I could tell you in many ways about hell, so much so that it is hard to find a simile for the suffering in hell. So here, in paragraph 13, this guy is harnessed to a chariot, tied to a chariot, and the horse, seems in hell also got horse. So the horse drags pulls the chariot, and this guy is pulled on the floor, and the ground is rough and is hot, and burning, and so as he scraped on the floor, I can imagine his flesh is being scraped off, and he's feeling great pain. I don't know how long they do this, maybe for a few years. Next, the wardens of hell make him climb up and down a great mound of burning coals. See, this charcoal is burning and blazing, and he has to climb up and down, getting burned all over. Then he's thrown into a red-hot metal cauldron, just like when we cook rice. You can see the rice floating up sometimes and floating down, the grain of rice. Sometimes it flows to the side, sometimes it flows to the other side. So in the same way, this guy is floating up and down in the red-hot metal cauldron, being cooked. Then after maybe many years, he's thrown into the great hell. This great hell is all made of metal, like a cube. Each side is 100 leagues. 100 leagues is 1,000 kilometers. The length is 1,000 kilometers, the breadth is 1,000 kilometers, the height is 1,000 kilometers. All the walls are iron, the floor is iron, the roof is iron. In the next sutta, you find the description, more detail. The fire is very great there. So, okay, so this just telling you a bit about hell. Not much of this. Compared to the next sutta, there's more description. Now we come to the animal kingdom. Monks, there are animals that feed on grass. They eat by cropping fresh or dried grass with their teeth. And what animals feed on grass? Elephants, horses, cattle, donkeys, goats, and deer, and any other such animals. A fool who formerly delighted in taste here and did evil actions here, on the dissolution of the body after death, reappears in the company of animals that feed on grass. There are animals that feed on dung. They smell dung from a distance and run to it, thinking, we can eat, we can eat. Just as Brahmins run to the smell of a sacrifice, thinking, we can eat, we can eat. So too, these animals that feed on dung, smell dung from a distance and run to it, thinking, we can eat, we can eat. And what animals feed on dung? fowls, pigs, dogs, and jackals, and any other such animals. A fool who formerly delighted in taste here and did evil actions here, on the dissolution of the body after death, reappears in the company of animals that feed on dung. So these, stop here for a moment. These two classes of animals that feed on grass and feed on dung, their characteristic formally is that they delighted in taste, greedy for taste, and then they did evil actions, they harm others. Because of that, they are born in the animal realm. You notice, like for example, dogs. If you bring meat, good food in front of the dog, the saliva will start to fall down. Shows the great greed. There are animals that are born, age, and die in darkness. And what animals are born, age, and die in darkness? Moths, maggots, and earthworms, and any other such animals. A fool who formerly delighted in taste here and did evil actions here, on the dissolution of the body after death, reappears in the company of animals that are born, age, and die in darkness. There are animals that are born, age, and die in water. And what animals are born, age, and die in water? Fish, turtles, and crocodiles, and any other such animals. A fool who formerly delighted in taste here and did evil actions here, on the dissolution of the body after death, reappears in the company of animals that are born, age, and die in water. There are animals that are born, age, and die in filth. And what animals are born, age, and die in filth? Those animals that are born, age, and die in a rotten fish, or in a rotten corpse, or in rotten dough, or in a cesspit, shithole, or in a sewer. A fool who formerly delighted in taste here and did evil actions here, on the dissolution of the body after death, reappears in the company of animals that are born, age, and die in filth. Monks, I could tell you in many ways about the animal kingdom, so much so that it is hard to find a simile for the suffering in the animal kingdom. Suppose a man threw into the sea a yoke with one hole in it, and the east wind carried it to the west, and the west wind carried it to the east, and the north wind carried it to the south, and the south wind carried it to the north. Suppose there were a blind turtle that came up once at the end of each century. What do you think, monks? Would that blind turtle put his neck into that yoke with one hole in it? He might, Venerable Sir, sometime or other at the end of a long period. Monks, the blind turtle would take less time to put his neck into that yoke with a single hole in it than a fool, once gone to perdition, would take to regain the human state, I say. Why is that? Because there is no practicing of the Dhamma there, no practicing of what is righteous, no doing of what is wholesome, no performance of merit. There mutual devouring prevails and the slaughter of the weak. If some time or other at the end of a long period, that fool comes back to the human state, it is into a low family that he is reborn, into a family of outcasts, or hunters, or bamboo workers, or cartwrights, or scavengers, one that is poor with little to eat and drink, surviving with difficulty, where he scarcely finds food and clothing, and he is ugly, unsightly, and misshapen, sickly, blind, triple-handed, lame, or paralyzed. He gets no food, drink, clothes, vehicles, garlands, scents, and unguents, bed, lodging, and light. He misconducts himself in body, speech, and mind, and having done that, on the dissolution of the body after death, he reappears in a state of deprivation, in an unhappy destination, in perdition, even in hell. Monks, suppose a gambler at the very first unlucky throw loses his child and his wife, and all his property, and furthermore goes into bondage himself. Yet an unlucky throw such as that is negligible. It is a far more unlucky throw when a fool who misconducts himself in body, speech, and mind, on the dissolution of the body after death, reappears in a state of deprivation, in an unhappy destination, in perdition, even in hell, This is the complete perfection of the fool's grade. Stop here for a moment. So here, just now, the Buddha talked about the other type of animals. There are some born in darkness, there are some born in water, there are some born in filth or shit. And then the Buddha says, once a person has been born either into the animal realm or in hell, that is described as perdition. Perdition means damnation. Is damned into the animal realm or hell, and he will be there for a very, very, very long time. It's very hard to come out from there. So to make you understand how long he will be there, the Buddha said, you imagine a yoke. A yoke is this wooden frame where this bullock which has to pull the cart. The two of them, they have this wooden thing with the two holes in it. So their head is put inside the hole, and they are locked inside the thing. So this wooden piece with the hole in it, imagine it is in the wide ocean. The ocean is so big, and the wind is blowing it in different directions. And this blind turtle is trying to come up and take a breath. But only once in 100 years it can come up, take a breath, and then it go down again. So once in 100 years it comes up to take a breath. What's the chance of it putting the head through that hole in that yoke? Almost impossible, right? You cannot even see the yoke. How can he come up and put his head through the thing? And the thing is moving all the time. So the monk says it'll be a very, very long time before he can manage to put his head through that hole. And then the Buddha says that is shorter than for a person once gone to hell or to the animal realm to come out from it. That's why in certain religions they say once you go to hell it's eternal damnation. You never come out from there. It appears like eternal because when you suffer, one day or one night to go through is so long when you're suffering. When you're enjoying, the years go by, it's too short, not enough. But when you're suffering, even, for example, like somebody slams the door of the car, you happen to put your finger there, and your finger is slammed. You want to move out your finger, even for a few seconds, it's so painful, it seems like so long. So that's why hell is like eternity. So similarly with the animal realm. So even when he comes out of that realm, animal or hell realm, he's a person with very bad karma. So he's born into a low family. Hard to find a living, and on top of that, he's ugly, unsightly, misshapen, crippled or paralyzed or lame, etc. So the Buddha at the end says something very interesting. Suppose a gambler at the very first unlucky throw. This gambler, first time he's gambling. Imagine he goes to plays a casino. First time he throws the dice, and he loses his child, his wife, and all his property, and furthermore he goes into such a great debt that he has to become a slave. But the Buddha says even that unlucky throw is negligible. It is a far more unlucky throw when the fool misconducts himself in body, speech, and mind and goes down to the animal or to the hell realm. And the Buddha calls it the complete perfection of the fool's grade. So a lot of people, they don't know this. So they gamble away their life and end up in hell. Monks, there are these three characteristics of a wise man, signs of a wise man, attributes of a wise man. What three? Here a wise man is one who thinks good thoughts, speaks good words, and does good deeds. If a wise man were not so, how would the wise know him thus? This person is a wise man, a true man. But because a wise man is one who thinks good thoughts, speaks good words, and does good deeds, The wise know him thus. This person is a wise man, a true man. Stop here for a moment. So, a wise man in the Buddha's teachings is one who does wholesome karma through the body, speech and mind. A wise man in the Buddha's teachings is different from a wise man in the worldly sense. In the worldly sense, if you've got a PhD degree, you're a wise man. If you're a professor, you're a wise man, but not, or even more worldly. If you make $1 billion, you're a wise man, according to worldly people. But here is different. A wise man feels pleasure and joy here and now in 3 ways. If a wise man is seated in an assembly, or along a street, or in a square, and people there are discussing certain pertinent and relevant matters, then if the wise man is one who abstains from killing living beings, from taking what is not given, from misconduct in sensual pleasures, from false speech, from wine, liquor, and intoxicants, which are the basis of negligence, he thinks, these people are discussing certain pertinent and relevant matters. Those things are not found in me, and I am not seen engaging in them. This is the first kind of pleasure and joy that a wise man feels here and now. Again, when a robber culprit is caught, a wise man sees kings having many kinds of torture inflicted on him, as before. Then the wise man thinks thus, because of such evil actions as those, when a robber culprit is caught, kings have many kinds of tortures inflicted on him. Those things are not found in me, and I am not seen engaging in those things. This is the second kind of pleasure and joy that a wise man feels here and now. Again, when a wise man is on his chair, or on his bed, or resting on the ground, then the good actions that he did in the past, his good bodily, verbal, and mental conduct, cover him, overspread him, and envelop him. Just as the shadow of a great mountain peak in the evening covers, overspreads, and envelops the earth, so too, when a wise man is on his chair, or on his bed, or resting on the ground, then the good actions that he did in the past, his good bodily, verbal, and mental conduct, cover him, overspread him, and envelop him. Then the wise man thinks, I have not done what is evil, I have not done what is cruel, I have not done what is wicked, I have done what is good, I have done what is wholesome, I have made myself a shelter from anguish. When I pass away, I shall go to the destination of those who have not done what is evil, etc., who have made themselves a shelter from anguish. He does not sorrow, grieve, and lament. He does not weep, beating his breast and become distraught. This is the third kind of pleasure and joy that a wise man feels here and now. A wise man who has given himself over to good conduct of body, speech, and mind on the dissolution of the body after death reappears in a happy destination, even in heaven. Stop here for a moment. So here the Buddha says, in 3 instances, a wise man feels pleasure and joy. One, when a lot of people are seated together and discussing, then he thinks these people are discussing about people who did wrong things. I have not done wrong things, so he is happy. Second one, when he sees a robber caught and tortured, then he is happy. He has not done anything that will make the king want to torture him. Thirdly, when he is resting, then all the good actions that he did give him joy, happiness. So a wise man can, because of his good deeds, take rebirth in heaven. Were it rightly speaking to be said of anything that is utterly wished for, utterly desired, utterly agreeable, it is of heaven that, rightly speaking, this should be said, so much so that it is hard to find a simile for the happiness of heaven. When this was said, a monk asked the Blessed One, but Venerable Sir, can a simile be given? It can, monk. The Blessed One said, monks, suppose that a wheel-turning monarch possessed the 7 treasures and the 4 kinds of success, and because of that experienced pleasure and joy. Stop here for a moment. This wheel-turning monarch is also called a universal monarch, a king who is so good that the whole world, the whole earth wants him to be king. So he rules over the whole earth using Dhamma. And he is supposed to possess the 7 treasures and the 4 kinds of success. What are the 7 treasures? Here, when a head anointed noble king has bathed his head on the Uposatha day of the 15th and has ascended to the upper palace chamber for the Uposatha, there appears to him the divine wheel treasure with its 1,000 spokes, its tire and its nave, complete in every aspect. On seeing it, the head anointed noble king thinks thus, "Now it has been heard by me that when a head anointed noble king has bathed his head on the Uposatha day of the 15th and has ascended to the upper palace chamber for the Uposatha, and there appears to him the divine wheel treasure with its 1,000 spokes, its tire and its nave, complete in every aspect, then that king becomes a wheel-turning monarch. Am I then a wheel-turning monarch?" Then the head anointed noble king rises from his seat, and taking a water vessel in his left hand, he sprinkles the wheel treasure with his right hand, saying, "Turn forward, good wheel treasure, triumph, good wheel treasure." Then the wheel treasure turns forward, rolling in the eastern direction, and the wheel-turning monarch follows it with his 4 constituent army. Now in whatever region the wheel treasure pauses, there the wheel-turning monarch takes up his abode with his 4 constituent army, and opposing kings in the eastern direction come to the wheel-turning monarch and speak thus, "Come, great king, welcome, great king, command, great king, advise, great king." The wheel-turning monarch speaks thus, "You should not kill living beings. You should not take what is not given. You should not misconduct yourselves in sensual pleasures. You should not speak falsehood. You should not drink intoxicants. You should eat what you are accustomed to eat." And the opposing kings in the eastern direction submit to the wheel-turning monarch. Then the wheel treasure plunges into the eastern ocean and emerges again. And then it turns forward, rolling in the southern direction. And the opposing kings in the southern direction submit to the wheel-turning monarch. Then the wheel treasure plunges into the southern ocean and emerges again. And then it turns forward, rolling in the western direction. And the opposing kings in the western direction submit to the wheel-turning monarch. Then the wheel treasure plunges into the western ocean and emerges again. And then it turns forward, rolling in the northern direction. And the opposing kings in the northern direction submit to the wheel-turning monarch. Now when the wheel treasure has triumphed over the earth to the ocean's edge, it returns to the royal capital and remains as if fixed on its axle at the gate of the wheel-turning monarch's inner palace, as an adornment to the gate of his inner palace. Such is the wheel treasure that appears to a wheel-turning monarch. Again, the elephant treasure appears to the wheel-turning monarch, all white, with 7-fold stands, with supernormal power, flying through the air. The king of elephants, named Uposatha. On seeing him, the wheel-turning monarch's mind has confidence in him thus, "It would be wonderful to ride the elephant if he would undergo taming." Then the elephant treasure undergoes taming, just like a fine thoroughbred elephant, well tamed for a long time. And it so happens that the wheel-turning monarch, when testing the elephant treasure, mounts him in the morning, and after traversing the whole earth to the edge of the ocean, he returns to the royal capital to take his morning meal. Such is the elephant treasure that appears to a wheel-turning monarch. Again, the horse treasure appears to the wheel-turning monarch, all white, with raven-black head, with mane like munja grass or manja grass, with supernormal power, flying through the air. The king of horses, named Valahaka. On seeing him, the wheel-turning monarch's mind has confidence in him thus, "It would be wonderful to ride the horse if he would undergo taming." Then the horse treasure undergoes taming, just like a fine thoroughbred horse, well tamed for a long time. And it so happens that the wheel-turning monarch, when testing the horse treasure, mounts him in the morning. And after traversing the whole earth to the edge of the ocean, he returns to the royal capital to take his morning meal. Such is the horse treasure that appears to the wheel-turning monarch. Again, the jewel treasure appears to the wheel-turning monarch. The jewel is a fine barrel of purest water, 8-faceted and well cut. Now the radiance of the jewel treasure spreads around for a whole league. A whole league is 1,000 kilometers. And it so happens that when the a whole league is 10 kilometers. 10 kilometers. And it so happens that when the wheel-turning monarch is testing the jewel treasure, he draws up his 4 constituent army in array, and mounting the jewel on top of his banner, he sets forth in the darkness and gloom of the night. Then all the inhabitants of the villages nearby begin their work by its light, thinking that it is day. Such is the jewel treasure that appears to a wheel-turning monarch. Again, the woman treasure appears to the wheel-turning monarch. Beautiful, comely and graceful, possessing the supreme beauty of complexion, neither too tall nor too short, neither too slim nor too stout, neither too dark nor too fair, surpassing human beauty without reaching divine beauty. The touch of the woman treasure is such that it is like a tuft of kapok or a tuft of cotton wool. When it is cool, her limbs are warm. When it is warm, her limbs are cool. From her body, the scent of sandalwood comes forth, and from her mouth, the scent of lotuses. She rises before the wheel-turning monarch and retires after him. She is eager to serve, agreeable in conduct, and sweet in speech. Since she is never unfaithful to the wheel-turning monarch, even in thought, how could she be so in body? Such is the woman treasure that appears to a wheel-turning monarch. Again, the steward treasure appears to the wheel-turning monarch. The divine eye, born of past action, is manifested in him, whereby he sees hidden stores of treasure, both with owners and ownerless. He approaches the wheel-turning monarch and says, "Sire, you remain at ease. I shall take care of your monetary affairs." And it so happens that when the wheel-turning monarch is testing the steward treasure, he boards a boat and putting out into the river Ganges. In midstream, he tells the steward treasure, "I need gold and bullion, steward." "Then, sire, let the boat be steered towards one bank." "Steward, it is actually here that I need gold and bullion." Then the steward treasure plunges both hands into the water and draws up a pot full of gold and bullion. And he tells the wheel-turning monarch, "Is this enough, sire? Is enough done, enough offered?" "This is enough, steward. Enough is done, enough offered." Such is the steward treasure that appears to a wheel-turning monarch. Again, a counselor treasure appears to the wheel-turning monarch. Wise, shrewd and sagacious, capable of getting the wheel-turning monarch to promote that which is worthy of being promoted, to dismiss that which should be dismissed, and to establish that which should be established. He approaches the wheel-turning monarch and says, "Sire, you remain at ease, I shall govern." Such is the counselor treasure that appears to a wheel-turning monarch. These are the 7 treasures that a wheel-turning monarch possesses. So the 7 treasures, one is the wheel treasure, the second is the elephant treasure, then the horse treasure, then the jewel treasure, the woman treasure, the steward treasure, and the last is the counselor treasure. What are the 4 kinds of success? Here, a wheel-turning monarch is handsome, comely and graceful, possessing the supreme beauty of complexion, and he surpasses other human beings in that respect. This is the first kind of success that a wheel-turning monarch possesses. Again, a wheel-turning monarch lives long and endures long, and he surpasses other human beings in that respect. This is the second kind of success that a wheel-turning monarch possesses. Again, a wheel-turning monarch is free from illness and affliction, possessing a good digestion that is neither too cool nor too warm, and he surpasses other human beings in that respect. This is the third kind of success that a wheel-turning monarch possesses. Again, a wheel-turning monarch is dear and agreeable to Brahmins and householders. Just as a father is dear and agreeable to his children, so too, a wheel-turning monarch is dear and agreeable to Brahmins and householders. Brahmins and householders too are dear and agreeable to a wheel-turning monarch. Just as children are dear and agreeable to a father, so too, Brahmins and householders are dear and agreeable to a wheel-turning monarch. Once a wheel-turning monarch was driving in a pleasure park with his 4 constituent army. Then Brahmins and householders went to him and spoke thus, "Sire, drive slowly that we may see you longer." And he told his charioteer, "Charioteer, drive slowly that I may see the Brahmins and householders longer." This is the 4th kind of success that a wheel-turning monarch possesses. These are the 4 kinds of success that a wheel-turning monarch possesses. What do you think, monks? Would a wheel-turning monarch experience pleasure and joy because of possessing these 7 treasures and these 4 kinds of success? Venerable Sir, a wheel-turning monarch would experience pleasure and joy because of possessing even 1 treasure, let alone 7 treasures and 4 kinds of success. Then taking a small stone the size of his hand, the Blessed One addressed the monks thus, "What do you think, monks? Which is greater, this small stone that I have taken, the size of my hand, or Himalaya, the king of mountains?" Venerable Sir, the small stone that the Blessed One has taken, the size of his hand, does not count beside Himalaya, the king of mountains. It is not even a fraction. There is no comparison. So too, monks, the pleasure and joy that a wheel-turning monarch would experience because of possessing the 7 treasures and the 4 kinds of success does not count beside the happiness of heaven. It is not even a fraction. There is no comparison. Stop here for a moment. So this wheel-turning monarch is the ideal of human existence. As a human being, the greatest human being in the worldly sense, if you want to enjoy life, is to be a wheel-turning monarch, where you govern the whole earth, and you're so popular among the citizens. The citizens want to see you as much as they can, and that wheel-turning monarch wants to see them as much as he can. So even then, the Buddha says the happiness of a wheel-turning monarch is negligible compared to the happiness of heaven. Why? Because even if you are very happy as a wheel-turning monarch, how long is your lifespan? In earth, the Buddha says the longest lifespan for a human being is about 80,000 years. Because as a wheel-turning monarch, it might be a bit longer. But 80,000 years is a short time compared to heavenly existence. Heavenly existence, I think the lowest is something like 9 million years. 9 million years, and you have a lot of psychic power. And we go to the second level of heaven, Sakadeva Raja, I think it's 36 million years. So in heaven also is different, because in heaven you don't have the sickness as a human being, and your body also is different. Your body is very fine, and the body is always fragrant, and you don't age. After 1 million years or so, you look like sweet 16. Whereas in the human world, after some time, you can see yourself aging. So that's why the Buddha says human existence cannot count beside heaven. If some time or other, at the end of a long period, the wise man comes back to the human state, it is into a high family that he is reborn, into a family of well-to-do nobles, or well-to-do Brahmins, or well-to-do householders, one that is rich, of great wealth, of great possessions, with abundant gold and silver, with abundant assets and means, and with abundant money and grain. He is handsome, comely and graceful, possessing the supreme beauty of complexion. He obtains food and drink, clothes, vehicles, garlands, scents and unguents, bed, lodging and light. He conducts himself well in body, speech and mind, and having done so, on the dissolution of the body after death, he reappears in a happy destination, even in the heavenly world. Monks, suppose a gambler at the very first lucky throw won a great fortune. Yet a lucky throw such as that is negligible. It is a far more lucky throw when a wise man who conducts himself well in body, speech and mind, on the dissolution of the body after death, reappears in a happy destination, even in the heavenly world. This is the complete perfection of the wise man's grade. That is what the Blessed One said. The monks were satisfied and delighted in the Blessed One's words. That's the end of the sutta. So, This is a complete perfection of the wise man's grade to conduct ourselves according to the Dhamma, create wholesome karma to the body, speech and mind, and after that we are reborn in heaven. Just now you heard the Buddha say it is utterly desirable to be born in heaven, not like what nowadays what some people say, don't get reborn in heaven, and I always say that sour grapes, not that easy to be reborn in heaven. And the other thing you must know, that you see that some people, we practice the holy path and we strive, and sometimes it is very painful, sometimes it's a lot of suffering, but even if it's a lot of suffering, it's worth it. How long do you have to strive? Now our lifespan is about 70 something years, so even if you strive, say you renounce at the age of 30, even if you strive for 40 years, even if you suffer every day, your tears come down, it's worth it, because at the end of 40 years, you enjoy maybe 40 million years in heaven. See how much is the odds. So that's why the Buddha's teaching is so good. If you didn't know, you are ignorant of the Dhamma, you want to enjoy now. Good, you enjoy now, but you pay for it with tears later, like a lot of people. The next sutta is almost as long as what we went through, so maybe we leave it for tomorrow. It's already about 51 minutes. Anything to discuss? For one thing, if a person did evil action, depending on the degree of his evil action, if the evil action of his is quite severe, then he will go to hell. But if it's not so severe, then he'll be reborn in the animal kingdom. But animal kingdom also, I guess, has a range of animals. There's one sutta where the Buddha said that the animal world is very, very complex. There's such a wide range of beings. What you can imagine now, anything that you can imagine is there. And why the Buddha says like that? Because our existence is mind-made. So as we think, we are reborn. So because our mind is so complicated, that's why when we get into reborn to the animal realm, the Buddha says there's such a complicated, vast range of beings in the animal realm. So I guess there might be some which are not so greedy in the animal realm. So if a person is not so greedy, he won't be reborn as that greedy type of animals. Say again.
When we like his case for enjoyment, could we be using our good karma and do evil actions that sort of speed up our going down to both ways?
Yes, but the most important is doing of evil action, because if a person does good deeds, then he can enjoy taste in this life, and then he will be able to enjoy also in the next life. The Buddha says that a wise man, in some sutta, the Buddha says his good karma makes him enjoy life now. And if he knows how to conduct himself properly, then after this lifetime, he still can have a very enjoyable life in heaven. So, although we when we enjoy life, we do use up our blessings, lah. But it's important that we do more good deeds to cultivate more blessings and merit. In the Mahaparinibbana Sutta, when the Buddha was about to enter Nibbana, he brought the monks with him and walked quite a distance. And he walked to a place where he finally lay down to enter Nibbana. And remember, Ananda asked him, Lord, why do you want to pass away in this, what's the word they use? There's an expression, wattle and daub or something, place. It's like a ulu place, such a, like in Australia, you see in the bushland. Shanty town? It's not a town. It's in the bushland like that. No houses. So remember, Ananda asked him, why you want to pass away here? Why don't you pass away in a big city, in a big town, where people can pay veneration to you as just before you enter Nibbana? Then you know what the Buddha said? The Buddha said, don't put down this place, don't say it's a ulu place or this is a bushland or what. The Buddha said a long time ago, this used to be the capital of a wheel-turning monarch, universal king. And the Buddha said, I was the wheel-turning monarch at that time. So he still had a lot of sentimental memories of that place. Because he was so happy in that place that he wanted to go there and pass away just before he entered Nibbana. So you see, so the memories of our past is always there. But maybe also it so happened that that place is near where he was about to pass away. So he purposely went there and passed away there.
But at the time when we don't have really Gotama anymore, we are out of the conscience and no change at all. But would the conscience here appear when this is about to be?
Oh yes, I think so. Because of greed, actually all of us, we have this conscience telling us how to act. But because of greed, hatred and delusion, we refuse to listen to this conscience. But it is there, nevertheless. So there'll be a time that we will surface. Either sooner or later. Of course, it surfaces sooner, then you know what to do. For some people, they refuse to listen to this conscience, and then when they are dying, this conscience will really prick them. It is said in the next sutta that when a person goes down to hell, he will meet King Yama. King Yama is the king in the hell realm, and the King Yama will make him remember all his past actions. King Yama will tell him, today you have come here because of your evil actions. And probably King Yama will replay the DVD of his evil. So he cannot run away. He cannot refuse to admit all this will come back very clearly. And King Yama would say, all this action was done by you and you alone. It's not done by your mother, not done by your father, not done by your brothers or sisters, your relatives or your friends or anybody. You alone did it, and you alone have to pay for it. So, you see, at that time, even though you fool yourself in the human realm, we have a lawyer bureau inside here, with a great lawyer inside here, always giving us excuses. When we don't want to act in a certain way, this lawyer will give us very good excuses. He's an excellent lawyer up here. So, we listen to this. But when the time comes for judgment, this lawyer is no more there to protect you. You have to face the music. You see, if you remember certain suttas we read, where the Buddha said that, for example, about this Kakusanda Buddha, this Mara was trying to sort of affect the minds of the monks. Don't want them to practice so hard, don't want them to enter Nibbana. So the Buddha Kakusanda knew, and so each time whatever Mara did, he will counter Mara. For example, sometimes Mara will influence the people, the lay people, not to give food to the monks. So the lay people, being influenced by Mara, on that occasion, they refused to give food to the monks. So the monks had to go hungry. But it is mentioned that because of that action, when they died, these lay people went to hell. So you see, even though you might be influenced by somebody like Mara, but you made the decision. Just like sometimes you have an evil friend. He will ask you to go and jolly, go to the casino, go to Hajjai or whatever. You listen to him. And then later when you get AIDS or HIV or something like that, you cannot say blame him. You have to blame yourself. Even though that person influenced you, even Mara influenced you, but you made the decision. So ultimately you have to pay for it. So when the time comes, we cannot excuse ourselves and say, oh, this Mara, blame Mara. No. So I have to be very clear. Whatever we do, we are responsible.
Two questions. First one is that we did mention in the Sutta that Buddha, when he was to Sutta heaven, and it was due for him to come down to the prince or whatever, and then preach Dhamma. Did he choose his parents, his place of birth, his death? This is what I heard. The second question is that...
Hey, one by one. You ask too many questions, I forget. So your question is whether this Siddhartha Gotama, before he came down from Tusita heaven, he chose his parents. According to that sutta we read the other day, Sankarupapati Sutta, remember? Rebirth by aspiration. Where the Buddha said, if you have certain qualities, what are the qualities? Generosity or charity, sila, moral conduct, faith, much learning and wisdom. These 5 things, if you have these 5 basic qualities, then you can choose to be reborn into a family of nobles, or a good family, or in a wealthy family of Brahmins, or wealthy family of merchants and all that. So I guess to a certain extent, if you have the good karma and there is this karmic affinity, you can be reborn into that family. Especially as a Deva or Devi.
Okay, second question in the Chinese, I don't want to call it or there is 18 types of and it seems that you can only at the Hopa in Singapore show 10 or show the first 8 or first 10, but the rest they cannot show you.
Why?
Can you comment on that?
Why do they say cannot show you the other hells?
Because not describable as things like that. This is what I learned here. For example, they can threaten maybe 8 or 10 cells. The other 8 is probably the most severe, not predictable or whatever.
This is not mentioned in the suttas. In the suttas, in the next sutta, you will find more detailed description of hell. And then there are other suttas where, for example, there's in the Samyutta Nikaya, the Buddha was talking about Kokalika, one of the disciples of Devadatta. He was always talking bad about Sariputta and Moggallana. And the Buddha warned him not to say bad things about these two arahants, but he kept doing it. And then after that he got sick. And after he got sick, he started to have, like chicken pox like that. Pustules on his body. And this grew bigger and bigger and bigger until very big. Like a orange or something. And then they burst and he died. And the Buddha said he went to a very, very deep hell. And he'll be there for a very, very long time. And the monks asked the Buddha, how long? The Buddha said, it's hard to imagine how long. Then they asked the Buddha to give a simile. Buddha said something like, imagine you have one cartload, the Buddha's days, like a bullock cart, cartload of sesame seeds. Sesame seeds are very small. One full cartload of sesame seeds. And then once in 100 years, you take out one sesame seed. Once in another 100 years, you take out another sesame seed. How long before you can exhaust that sesame, the seeds in that one cart? It's a very long time. Then the Buddha says, that is how long takes for a person to come out of a certain hell. Then after that, the Buddha said, the next hell, deeper, is so many more times longer. And then the next hell is so many times longer. And then finally it comes to this hell, where this Kokalika is reborn. And those type of hells is only mentioned that is very long time there. And the Buddha did not describe the hells. Maybe they refer to that. Just because the Buddha did not describe. But then the Buddha says, what I know is like the leaves in the forest. What I tell you is like the leaves in my hand. There are too many things to tell us. So we have no time to listen. If we listen to everything the Buddha wants to can know, then our life will be finished before the Buddha can describe.
Okay. Concerning this Dhammavuddho, what is the relationship of the karma between the parents and the children? Because sometimes we read in the cases, sometime last year, we see a very young, very successful consultant is killed in a construction site when the congressman fell on his car. But he's very successful. Now, in what way? So when that happens, obviously the parents will be very distraught. So in what way is the karma related to the parents and the children?
There is no simple answer to that because there are so many possibilities of this relationship between parents and their children. Some might be a good relationship, some might be a bad relationship. So there is no single answer for that. There are some they come back to take revenge on their parents. There are some they come back to repay the debt owed to their parents. So a wide range of possibilities. There is no direct, but definitely there must be some karmic link, because the Buddha says in one sutta that every living being we meet, generally we have been related to them in the past. It's very difficult to find any living being you meet who has not been your mother or your father or your brother or your sister or some relative in the past. So even the dogs that we meet all related to us in the past. Whatever So whether the relation is good or bad, what relation you had in the past is not important. What is important is now. You create a good relationship so that you have a good relationship after this. What happened in the past is not important. What you are doing now is important.
So in that case, I heard one of the Dhamma talk at one of the Dhamma days. He was saying something like, the fact that you don't even know where your children is coming from, but the karma is not. Is that true?
You don't know what?
He was saying, he said, sometimes you worry about your children. Yeah? He said, you don't even know where they come from. You don't know what their karma is from. So why are you worried about it?
Of course, that's true to a certain extent, because the Buddha said that a person's life is governed by the karma. So each person has his karma. So there's no point for you to worry. There's no point for you to cry. Well, their life is fixed by their karma. What you can do to help them now, you do your duty. But other than that, there's nothing else you can do because their life is governed by their karma. Okay, can we end now?